All right, hello everybody, and welcome to our monthly impact series. For those who have been joining Sneha and I month over month, welcome back. We love to have you. If this is your first one, thank you so much for joining. I hope it's first of many. My name is Jacquie Kenney, and I am the Director of Product Marketing here at Observe.AI, and I run all things solution marketing. So really understanding what our customers are doing, how are they realizing value, understanding our prospects' problems, and really helping other prospects that are alike to really resonate with that and understand what is tangible within our platform. And co-hosting with me is the lovely Sneha. Sneha, you want to intro yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Sneha. I head the business value and analytics department here at Observe.AI. Um, whatever Jackie said in terms of, identifying customer pain points, solutioning for it, my team is responsible for bringing that to life with our platform and showcasing how you can, leverage our platform for optimizing your true North Star. So excited to be in the session today with our amazing guest expert, Liz.
Hello,
Yes.
ladies.
And welcome, Liz. So today is build versus buy. It's not
Oh
that
boy.
easy. So we
Yeah.
love having Liz Miller with us today, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research. The rest I will not do justice. So over to you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me and for everyone joining today or any other day you might be watching this. Thanks for putting up with my nonsense. I should just probably say that up front. Listen, I absolutely love this topic. So thank you so much for asking me to join. I'll do the quick intro and then I know we're going to get into some deeper stuff here in a second. So yes, VP Principal Analyst here at Constellation Research, where I have the distinct pleasure of really getting to oversee the technologies known as customer experience. And for us here at Constellation, that is the whole enterprise-wide team sport that usually involves the four horsewomen of the apocalypse: sales, service, marketing, commerce, riding out into all the data and all the technology and all the touch points and just making a mess and having fun. But most importantly, creating those very intentional, profitable, durable relationships and experiences with our customers. So that is what I get to dive into. I get to also dive deep into marketing and service technologies, and I have a colleague that covers all the good sales stuff. So we get to cover the whole ocean front.
I love that. And Liz, you shared in one of our previous conversations why build versus buy is so
Oh.
passionate to you. Why don't you share with the group why you're thrilled to be here today and share this knowledge?
Okay. Oh boy. Has anyone ever become an accidental CIO? Has that ever happened to you guys? Ever? I remember in a job I where we had a fairly large global marketing services firm. And one day we realized that our head of IT was leaving. And it's like, oh, okay, well, now what? And they're like, well, you like, Liz, you do all the digital stuff. I'm like, different, totally different. Like, I do digital marketing stuff. I do the website. I do all that. I do not do all this other stuff. And so that was that was a big lesson learned because everything from infrastructure to security to email to like our phone lines, everyone was like, oh, well, can't you use these different tools? Like, can't you use these building blocks and build this whole thing? And I'm like, I am not a master Lego builder. Like, I do not know what I am doing here. And they were like, yeah, but you stood up a contact center before. And I'm like, totally different. Totally different. But when you're in those motions, and I have lived that operator life where you have to go and try to resolve every single customization, every single thing, every single business wish. And whether it is in the contact center where we had both inbound and outbound calls, we had technical and non-technical support, we had customers calling in wondering where their packages were. You want to be able to build out something that's so right for your customer and for your people because you see the struggle like there sitting in their cubes, right? Back when we used to all go into the office. So you saw it. And so you would want to build better because you wanted to do that. I was not the creative one who'd be like, I bet I could build. That was not me. I was not like interested in that. But when I had to build my own email system and then try to figure out how to get that around a firewall, and then it felt it it sounded super easy, right? It sounded super simple, especially in the world of security where they have so many build options. But then when I got the price tag and I had to put it all together, it was a very different story. So I think when you've lived it, when you've lived both build and buy, like for me, I've seen the strengths and the weaknesses of both scenarios. So when you said, hey, let's talk about this, because all the folks listening in today, they're grappling with a lot of these same issues. I'm like, I still have the scars about all of these same issues.
I love it. And I love, the most about what you can bring to this is you not only lived it, but you also have helped other customers kind of go through this. So
Yeah.
this will be a fun conversation for everybody
Yeah.
in terms of
And
understanding it from both sides, because you may be on one or the other, or maybe both.
you totally may be in a journey, and that's exactly what it is. But and I will say the commonality between not only my own experience but my clients' experiences that I'm working with today, where they're trying to figure out build, buy, where, how, infrastructure, applications, because there are lots of different places and spaces that you can build versus buy, and
Yeah.
it's not all the same, and it's not all for the same purpose, and it's not all the same person doing the building or the buying. So I think that there's so much nuance to this conversation that when I jumped at the chance to be part of this, because I think that people look at it as a blanket statement. Like, I'm going to build or I'm going to buy. And you're like, oh, just wait until you peel the layers of that onion, my friend. Like, you're going to be here for a while.
That's the beauty of it,
Amazing.
right? You've lived it, you have such intense experiences. It's so raw that I think audience is gonna love it. That's what
I
they
hope so.
relate to the
Hold
most.
in with me, guys. We'll have a therapy session afterwards. Like, well, everyone watching today, we're virtually holding hands. It's like, we got it, everyone. We can get through this.
It's a community at the end of the
It
day,
is. I
you
love it.
know?
I love it.
All right, so let's dive in, but my team would be so mad at me if I didn't at least do our general housekeeping. We just dove right in. This session is recorded, everybody. Submit your questions on the right-hand side of the screen. There's a Q&A section. Submit that at any time. This is a complete Q&A session with us and Liz, so we will embed your questions throughout. So excited to get those answered for you. And since it is being recorded, it will be sent to you all as a follow-up with any remaining resources as well. So with that, you've already alluded to my first question, but let's dig into it. In your experience, why do so many organizations frame this decision as an either or? And how should they reframe it?
I love this question. I think the first thing is that there are lots of different places that we're having to look at this. Like I said before, right? When we were talking about cloud and infrastructure, how do we build out? Like this is as old as time. Like, do I buy all my PCs or do I build them because I know how to put boards in? Right? The build versus buy is kind of fundamental to IT and to technology. But as we've moved away from how do we build or buy, like what are those discussions around our infrastructure, our platforms, our security, and we've started getting into applications, especially applications that are purpose built for function. So whether it's marketing automation, CRM, contact center, service desk, when we start to look at those platforms, we're in this mindset of, oh, I have to customize everything. I can buy it and then I got to customize everything because that's the legacy that we've had since the dawn of time, right? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to do all this stuff. And when we look back on that stuff, that customization, it's cost a lot of money, right? That's been a very, very expensive thing, especially if you're talking about legacy on-prem solutions, right? Where everything had to be tweaked and everything had to be just right. And it was really costly. You brought in 7 different consultants and 3 different SIs to do it. A lot of people still have the memory of that. So they start to position things in that binary, we're going to build or we're going to buy, because the buying, we remember how painful that was. So maybe building's going to be better. But we also have a mindset shift that has kind of come over us as organizations where things are always binary. I give the example of if someone is a product-centric organization or if someone is a customer-centric organization, right? And I think that when we talk about those things, we tend to think of like, oh, I'm a customer-centric organization. And what that means is I've written, we are obsessed with our customers, like on the wall of the virtual cafeteria somewhere, and we pay homage to that idea and whatever. But the idea of a customer-centric organization is that everything you do is in service and reaction to the customer. If the customer wants it, I'm going to go build it, right? And say how you probably see this a lot with your teams, right? Like if we're being asked to be a customer-centric technology organization, that means that we look at the punch list of everything that our users have ever wanted, and that's what we prioritize, because if the customer wants it, needs it, deserves it, that's what we're going to go do. We're not a product-centric company because we care about our customers. We don't. That's that we mold our product around our customer. But the reality is that there are product-centric organizations out there that innovate and they push and they are ahead of everyone. I mean, no one sat back a couple of years ago and said, "Gosh, I wish there was a commercial way that I could go to a website and ask something called a chat GPT to break up with my boyfriend in a sonnet that sounds like it's sung by Jay-Z." Like no one actually thought that about OpenAI, right? Yet here it is. Here's ChatGPT. But so when you start to think about, okay, do I want to be the customer? Do I want to be that reactive customer-centric organization? Or do I want to constantly keep pushing my product forward? I want to keep building and I want to keep innovating and moving and advancing. We get really excited about that, being in that posture, because that means we're trailblazers, we're inventing. I'm Dyson, right? I'm Dyson. I've made the best vacuum cleaner that no one ever thought I needed for $400. But wait, there's more. Right? Now I've created a blow dryer that no one ever thought they needed from a vacuum company that also makes fans, that makes the air things in the bathroom that you dry your hands on, and now makes a hair dryer that I can't live without for $400. That is a product-centric company, right? They keep innovating when no one asks them to. So build versus buy is in that same continuum of two good things, but on opposite poles. Here's the funny story. You can be both, right? You can be a product-centric company and a customer-centric company, right? There are lots of examples of that. Patagonia is a tremendous example of that, right? They innovate, they push the needle. They're like, let me get this fluff fluffier so the jacket is thinner and warmer. Let me find new ways that people can enjoy the outdoors with all these tools and grappling hooks. You can tell that I don't buy any of those products from Patagonia right now, can't you? Because I don't know what to call them. But they invent those, right? They innovate with those, but they also listen intensely to their customers, and they create products for their customers. They create experiences and engagements for their customer. And while they might not create physical product in reaction to customer all the time, they're sure creating systems and destinations and communities and experiences in reaction to and specifically for their customer.
Yeah.
They build and they buy. They're product-centric and they're customer-centric. And I think that once we get past the initial stigma of like, no, it's really efficient to buy, that's why I'm only going to do that, versus I'm super innovative, so I'm going to build, or it's cheaper to build now, but it's less to. Once we get out of that kind of binary, polarized thinking, it opens up the opportunity to actually be like, ooh, what were the business needs? What were the business outcomes? And how do I intensely focus on how I satisfy those that are coming both from the business, but also from the customer and the market and our partners and our teams?
Yeah. And what I like most about kind of reading between the lines a little bit of what you're saying is, you know, it's build and buy, but based on the DNA of the company, right? If your product
100%.
you have so much passion and there's so much DNA embedded in that versus customer centric. And so it's understanding, where you meet the end of the line and then determining, I will build, but I
Yeah.
will buy when, why, how, and how much, right? And then that goes back to your characteristics. So you're never giving away what you are around to do, right? Because
Yeah.
that passion is never going to be replicated, right? A vendor will always have the passion with you, but that is so deep in the DNA. But they will help you do all of the other things that are maybe outside of your characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also accounts for not all company, yeah, like not all company cultures are the same. Not all company goals are the same, but not all company sizes are the same. I mean, it'd be great if everyone just fit into a cookie cutter, right? Like, but let's be honest about like the buy versus build. If you decide like, no, I've heard and I've done the math and build is cheaper than buy.
Yeah.
Woo, I've done it. That's where I'm going with. Well, okay. Do you have the team that knows how to do all that building? Because like you're gonna have to go hire them, or you're gonna have to like there's a lot of nuance to these decisions. And I'm certainly not a proponent of someone of saying, no, you may not build things, right? Like, no, ever, never, right? But I'm also not the proponent of blindly walk into one of these absolute paths without understanding, like to your exact point, like what is that DNA that
Yeah.
is going to start to inform where you build and how you buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a great, I mean, you almost led me into my question for you, right? But on the previous response though, I do want to add on to what Jackie said.
Yeah.
I also think the DNA of the company, whether they're product versus customer centric, like the way I'm thinking about it now is, oh, it could be a great gauge for us vendors to understand if build versus buy is going to come up in our conversations with them, right? So
Yeah.
it's product centric, like the likelihood for them wanting to build it is going to be greater versus them being customer centric. So I love the Patagonia example. But to your point, Liz, I think by default, the assumption though is building is cheaper, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I do feel that there are some common misconceptions when it comes to the cost of building versus buying. And the reason I say this is because a lot of the conversations that I've been in, I have seen an emerging pattern of large enterprises usually wanting to build it in-house, more so
Yeah.
because they have the resources to do it, right? There are so many internal web applications that their engineers are building. There's just so much to for for a buy solution to fit over that the default is, okay, we've got the resources, let's build it, it's going to be cheaper. But to your point, you don't want to be a proponent of anyone blindly just saying, okay, let's
Yeah.
build it because it's going to be cheaper. So um what would be some misconceptions that our audience, I mean, what would be a myth that you want to bust
Yeah.
comes to building versus buying?
I, the first one absolutely is build is cheaper than buy. And here's the thing. I'll just be very honest on certain things like infrastructure, on certain things like data structure, on certain things that are like, like, oh, my cloud setup. Yes, it might be. Like there's no arguing with the numbers. Being able to build that is going to be cheaper than going out and buying it. And you're now seeing, I mean, you're seeing massive revenue organizations being run by 20 people because they were able to build everything internally. Right. And so you're like, oh, wow. There's a website called Tiny Teams. You can go and look at like how small the team is and like how much revenue they're banking. And when you see things that are like $250 million, we have 10 people. You're like, how in the world are you doing that? Like what in the, and they'll say, well, because we built everything. We're not beholden to all the software licenses, blah, 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 blah. You were 10 engineers that started a company with more knowledge amongst the 10 of you in how to build, where to build, why you go and buy, and put that on top of what you've built. You have more expertise in 5 of the 10 people than a lot of mid-size organizations will ever be able to hire. At 10 people, quite frankly, enterprises would be happy to hire folks with that much skill and expertise. So I think we hear these really amazing stories, and they're absolutely amazing. And AI is making that even more astronomical, because it's like, I've got 10 people who are building, but I just deployed 100 agents to go QA and code and fact check it. And so like, you're like, yeah, oh my God, I could do that. I could totally do that. I have a team that's building right now. But the thing is, for large enterprises, especially large enterprises who didn't start today, right? Like large enterprises who have been in business, you're changing processes, you're managing operations, you are continuously caring and feeding for that infrastructure. Just because you had a team of 100 developers building out your infrastructure doesn't mean that once they built it, like Bob the Builder, they get to go home. They're still in your organization caring and feeding for the entity that they built. So to take them off of that, to take them off of the very structure and foundation of the business and say, hey, y'all, you go build me a contact center? Or even worse, hey, everyone, I've heard of a thing called AI. Go build it for me. Like, that is like, it's mind blowing, because as talented and as amazing those builders are, those developers are like insanely smart. Are they smart in the thing that you needed them to build? Are you a healthcare system that now suddenly has to look at billing? Are they a billing expert? Or are they a healthcare expert? Right. And I think that we don't necessarily talk about that when we're talking about the build. But I also think there's a misperception when it comes to buy, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, buy is so easy and I'm never going to have to build anything on it. Y'all ever heard of low code, no code? Like there's a reason, like we've built pathways specifically into and around our tools, so that once you build that structure in, once you build what that application is going to kind of functionally accomplish, whether it's in marketing, sales, whatever it is, you can then build on top of that to meet the needs of your customers, and hopefully at the same time meeting the needs of your team, of your business, of your efficiency, etc. It doesn't mean that creative, innovative instinct dies because you decided to buy something, right? But it also doesn't mean that you just let go, right? It doesn't mean that you bought it and then you just wait for the finished cake to arrive. You got to be in there. Like, you're in there building with, you're just building a different, you're using your expertise within the function and within your business to build the right system for you, with leaders who know their system so well that they are building it with you. It's very rare at the enterprise level, even, that you buy and then are just like, oh my God, I woke up the next morning and it was just working. It was amazing. Like, it just doesn't, like, when was the last time that happened? Like, it doesn't even happen for like pick the easiest of tools and technology, like social media listening. Nope, it does not just start doing it. Like, there is stuff you have to do. And especially in this age of AI, where you have data and you have dependencies and workflows that need to connect and interconnect from system to system and model to model and agent to agent. Yeah, like, help me. Like, am I building that? No, I'm a marketer. I'm not building that. Like, I could write a really cool description for it, but
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly what I need in a marketing automation solution.
I think what's most interesting about that, and what made me maybe stay on crack at the same time, is, this isn't new to the automation
No.
world, right? Like, pre-automation and pre-AI, I would still go buy a solution. And it's also one of the main reasons why we're all like, oh, the tool doesn't work. It's like, no, because we all thought it would be off shelf, right? And that's just not the reality of anything. And it's something that we talk about with prospects and customers a lot, around your domain expertise, your passion. Like, you will take yourself 80% of the way. Or sorry, we
Yeah.
will take you 80% of the way, and your domain expertise will take you the extra 20. But again, not new. Pre-automation,
Right.
that's was still required. And so I think the building is so exciting, and absolutely, like that will never take
Oh,
that
it's so
away
cool.
from you. It's so cool. And like you're gonna build something for your company that like maybe a vendor would never dream of. But it's
Right.
figuring out that percentage of where you need to go that extra mile to have the differentiation, right? Do you have the scope and the resources to get you there? Or do you need somebody to help you get there? And so I think that's interesting.
And I think people get real upset when they start to think of it, like everyone really wants this to be a very special unicorn problem in a very special time, specifically around technology. But I ask the audience this today. Does anyone remember the food television show called Semi Homemade? Does anyone remember this? Where like the host of the show would be like, I'm gonna make the most amazing tropical coconut pineapple cake you've ever tasted, and it's so amazing. And this is what we're gonna do it. And then my girl would go and get the Duncan Hines box of cake mix. And you're like, no, you're in a cake show, you're gonna go and you're gonna sift all the flour, you're gonna do all the things. No, she'd be like, here is my box of cake mix, and then I'm going to get my pre-made frosting, and then I did all these things, and then she would like build it together. She would bake all the things. Oh my god, here's a cake. At no point would anyone ever look at her and be like, you didn't bake that, because she bought the cake mix, right? Like at no point are you going to deny her the reality of you baked that. You made it. Yes, you made it with a pre-mixed box. You bought the box and brought it home. It's the same thing. I mean, we've been doing this in every facet of our life. It's okay to do it here, right? You
Yeah.
just went and bought the cake mix.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think where the friction happens, if I'm just being super honest, and you were asking about misperceptions, I think cost is a big misperception, right? Because I think we tend to look at the sticker price of the thing. The box cake mix is $4.99, but if I bought all the things I needed in the powder per serving, it would only cost me $1. And so we look at that and we go, ooh, it is much cheaper to make my own mix at home than it is to buy the box at the store, because I don't want to pay for that packaging, right? Like we get into all of those conversations. But what we don't have an honest conversation about is, how much did the water cost? How much did the eggs cost? It's not just the powder, it's everything else that goes in it. So how much do all the people cost of the devs? Absolutely. But how much does the data cost that you're required? How much does the extra, all the extra duct tape to put it all together actually cost? And on the same side, on the buy side, how much did the SIs cost? Because you ran into an issue and you actually had to fix out some legacy infrastructure that was stopping all of this from really singing correctly, right? So how much does it cost isn't just the sticker price when you pull up the pages on the vendors' sites, right? And I say this in all due respect, as I know that you're both with a vendor. So I'm not saying that to bash on, I say this in all love and total due respect. But to everyone on the line, like if you're comparing costs by just pulling up those websites and being like, oh, this costs X numbers per seat, but if I build it, there's no per seat. Yay me. Yes, but now you're hosting all the data. Now you're hosting all this. Now you're planting the AI. Do you know how to build an LLM? Congratulations. Good luck to you. Fancy how you figured out how to do a generative pre-trained transformer when it took OpenAI 20 years to do it. But like, hey, let's just go with it. So I think that when you were talking, Jackie, about expertise, I think that the cost of expertise toggles between the two. And if you really want to have an apples to apples conversation, you really owe it to yourself to not just look at the cost of the blocks versus the cost of the box, which is what I think a lot of people do. Now, the cost of the blocks may be so small that you can't help but want to go down that path. Great. That's great. But you can also buy things that go on top of it. Just make sure you're buying the right blocks, right? Again, it always comes back to have the honest conversation, know the foundation on which you are putting everything, and then make the decisions from there.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm going to build on that with, you talked about buying being a cost, building being a cost. Another lens to that is the time frame of cost, right?
Yeah.
So the act of getting started maybe seems slower when you're buying versus building. I think that's like a really interesting layer to add to this. Why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Um, Again, like I think that the reality here is that when we talk about buying or building, we talk about the buy the purchase or the build as the end destination, when that's really the starting point. Right? That's the starting line. Now there's a lot of stuff that we're going to do before we get to that starting point. A lot of costs that are going to go into that, a lot of differences in that motion of build versus buy. But there's also maintenance. There's also switching costs, right? I think switching costs are top of mind pretty much of any CIO that I've been talking to recently. Of, okay, if I'm going to take down my legacy system with all of these customizations that my business runs on, like, so if we refocus this back to any CX solution, right? My business's backbone relies on this CX tool to be working. And now I want AI to be all over it. But in order to do that, I've got to switch a lot of these legacy tools out. Okay, well, does the switching cost of that, the act of pulling it down and then risking either one of these pathways, is that even worth it? Like, so we're having cost conversations even before the build versus buy conversation. So your teams might be duking it out over who wants to be cool and who wants to go shopping, but IT, digital infrastructure, the CFO, the COO, they're having a very different conversation around how long is this going to take? Is there a risk to our business if we shift from the status quo? And do either of these things, where does that risk get mitigated? Does the risk get mitigated with the vendor that we bought the solution from? Or am I firing 100 people and like taking them out in the town square, right? Like, where does the risk, where do we manage that risk? And what can we expect? That line of expectation is going to change with whatever decision that you're going to make. But no matter what you do, you're going to constantly be on that cycle of building, maintaining, rebuilding, advancing, rebuilding, modernizing, right? So it's a matter of, did I get all of those modern patches pushed? Stuff got fixed. Or am I being like, wait, what did you say? There's a 0-day vulnerability in a what? Huh? Where? What? Again, there are real serious conversations that you have to have about whether it's the switching costs, whether it's management and maintenance, whether it's updates and upgrades. There's a reason why SaaS exists, right? Because upgrades are cool. I like getting them, and I don't want another box of discs in order to achieve it. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that the reality is that there is so there's an ongoing issue, and then there's the issue of time, and that's a whole other, like, I feel like that's a whole other Pandora's box that we can get into if you really want to, but it can be scary in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you're leading, I mean, you're answering all the questions before, we're even bringing it up, which is,
Because they
phenomenal.
lead into each other. Because it's funny, like, because this is such a connected
I
conversation,
know.
right?
No.
Because I think that when I made that, like, when I jokingly said, like, you're peeling the layers of an onion, that's what this feels like internally. Right. And I'm sure all of your customers have come back to you like at really like weird points of the decision cycle and been like, hey, can I do blah blah? And you're like, where did that come from? Like, hey, can I customize this and build my own things on top of? And it's because someone internally was like, it's going to cost a lot. That's going to cost a lot to move. So maybe we should build that part, but then do all this other stuff. Like, they identify these points and they identify these, I don't want to say they're roadblocks, There are more bumps. It's like speed bumps. They identify them as they're driving. And I think there's an opportunity here, especially for folks who are tuning in for this conversation, right? When you stand on the road, you can see there's a bump. Like you can see it before you even get in the car and drive. So have those conversations, right? Have the conversations now. Have the DNA conversation. Does everyone just want to build it and no one wants to maintain it? Like, be honest about that, right? But if your DNA says build, 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 we are unique show ponies, then no matter what you buy, it's always going to fail. So why do that? So have those honest conversations, but promise me this, have those honest conversations with your vendors as well, including those who are offering the big bucket of blocks that you can build with. Have the honest conversations up front so that when you don't hit that speed bump at 100 miles an hour, you slow, like you go at it at 10 instead of 100.
And I think you touched on a lot of points, Liz, around the true cost of ownership. You touched on how IT usually pushes you to build it in-house versus you have all these business innovation teams which are speed to value, right? So let's go ahead and buy. And there needs to be that balance between how can we have a shared vision of speed to value. But you
Yes.
also touched on a really important point on be it build or buy, it's not all roses, right? And so I like to call this as the warning signs question, where think of yourself 18 months from now where the decision is made. What do you think are some top 2 or 3 leading indicators of if your build project is heading off the rails? And
Oh, yeah.
and the same goes even for the buy solution, right? You've purchased a vendor, you've purchased a solution, and they're failing to deliver on their promises, and they're creating more problems than it solves. So what would be some leading indicators for both sides of the coin?
Yeah. That's a great point. I love that.
Do you have any specific signs that
I'm
one
sure.
that?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And I'll say it's a hard one because it's really going to be so different in every organization that you're with. Mid-size organizations are going to have very different warning signs than large enterprises. I think with large enterprises, the reality is a lot of times we don't have a shared vision of what the outcome of a project or an outcome of technology, an outcome of the build or the buy is going to be. So we settle on measuring the outputs. That's what's happening with AI right now, right? I don't know how to quantify, pay for, or identify good when it comes to AI outcomes. So I'm just gonna take the output, the fact that it did it and didn't hurt anyone. I'm gonna take that as the perfect thing. But we learn from that, we grow from that, and we continue to evolve from that. And I think that as organizations continue to talk within their walls and ask these hard questions of like, okay, guys, what were we expecting this to do? Like, what was the purpose of this? That's where we start to get the definition. But there has to be institutional memory. There has to be muscle memory of the last 50 times we tried to build this, or the last 50 times we tried to buy this, right? And it can't just be one person who's just been here a long time, right? So I think my advice to anyone out there is document, right? Document the good, document the great, but also document the bad, because it's in the bad that you get the best learnings. But I also think that there's a point at which we have to, we've already kind of touched on cost, but I want to go back and just kind of, I think that we look at cost as absolute. We've talked about switching costs, right? But what's that cost if it took too long? What's the cost of, I didn't know we also needed to do this? right? What's the cost of the struggle? What is the cost of it? We had to bring in 3 extra consultants because what we bought wasn't what we thought it was going to be, right? Similarly, what's the cost of, I know that we said we were going to build it this way, but then we decided to do it that way. And then everyone started vibe coding over it. Like that, there's a cost to that, right? And I think we have to be honest about it, because that internal struggle, that internal friction between teams that love to build and teams that just want to buy, it's real, right? It's real. I mean, I always joke in security that it's like the unicorns versus the people like with the pooper scoopers. They're just like following with the unicorns around. Like, I gotta clean this up. Like, my God, like, because they're like, I'm gonna build 90 different applications that can stop everyone at the firewall. And you're like, that's why we have the firewall. Like you do not need to build a new one. That's why we have one. And they're like, no, I'm gonna build anything. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So there's the cost of the flight of fancy too, right? But I think that what this requires is a whole lot of rigor, because I think we've all said it, right? No one wants to go into a dev team and say, you are no longer creative. You are no longer problem solvers. You are no longer builders. You're just here keeping the lights on. That's not where any of them want to be, right? And that's the reality. And I do think that some of the propensity to build is a knee-jerk reaction to I want them to do it. I want them to have the win. I want them to be able to do this rewarding stuff. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Let them, but have rigor around it, right? There is a rigor and a balance that can be struck where even in an and situation, you can have the whole structure and the whole, like, you can build the foundation in the house out of what you can buy. And the build is all of the build can be the roof. The build can be the floors in between and the stairs, right? There are lots of places and spaces that build is exceptionally right for. Mm-hmm. But if you got your blinders on, it's cheaper. It's the only place you're going to be. Did I even remotely answer your question, or I just like veered off and got on a soapbox? I'm like, here's my TED Talk, everyone.
No, you did. I know I put you on the spot, but
no, that's good.
It was, yeah, your responses were phenomenal. It's just given me so many ideas, even for myself. Yeah, I think I've been wanting to say this after the first question Jackie asked you, just the kind of references that you're coming up with. The audience is gonna love it. I think you're gonna be.
I usually talk about chicken sandwiches a lot, so I don't know. Like, I haven't brought one up this time, so I mean.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident you're gonna be a star amongst the audience today. So.
They're gonna hashtag Liz Miller analogy.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
No, I think it's so great. And I think, in the customer service world where, differentiation is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out you buy the house, but you redo the roof or the floors, figuring out like where you are so unique and throwing all of your innovation and resources there, right? We're not taking anything exciting away, but we're going to funnel it into like this amazing part, and our customers are going to be like, wow.
Right. Not everyone has to be a general contractor.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Like, you're a plumber. Cool. But like, I'm a painter. Okay, awesome. I will say, Sneha, I did think of one thing. Here is, okay, if you see this happening, and I will say especially in a build environment, but this can also happen in a buy environment. If you start to see lots of kind of started projects or started builds, but not a lot of completed builds, something is happening. Okay. And it's not necessarily the tool's fault. It's also not necessarily dev's fault, right? Because when you think about that process of building, you don't just kind of work on one thing. Like, Sneha, when you think about your team, right? Is everyone just working on one thing? Like, I'm going to code this start to finish. Like, I'm going to completely finish this product, right? And they're done. They're working on this. They're going on this. They've got that project. They've got this project. Someone needs a conversational AI that's going to come over here and be an expert in finance. I got to bring in this data. Well, I need something that deals with the weather. Okay, I need it. So you're kind of toggling between a whole lot of different build environments and build opportunities, because you're addressing a whole lot of different need across this giant house that you're building. If you're seeing a whole lot of projects get started and not a lot of projects get finished, there's a problem. And it's probably one of the most leading indicators that something has gone off the rails. And most often with clients that I work with, especially when we're talking about in service and in marketing environments, especially, either a lack of collaborative work that's continuous across the teams to say, yes, this is what I want, so keep building in that direction, or they asked for something because it's something they could think of. In a build environment, in both environments, teams don't know what they don't know.
No, true.
And a lot of times the benefit of a buy environment is you start with a baseline, you use it, you test it, you put the POC in, and then you're like, whoa, that's okay. I know I said I wanted to do this, but what I really meant was that. And you now bring in all of the experts from the vendor, all of the experts from your own internal teams, and those experts that are amazing at building. And you identify solutions, whether you're building it internally or where the vendor is assisting you or tweaking it or resetting the expectation. Everyone hits those points, but I would say, especially in a build environment, just check the completion rates.
I love
have a
that.
touch
That
base.
is that is so valuable. It's just given me another lens to evaluate my team's own performance now. So
It's always exciting. Listen, if we take the home building example, it is always fun to start a project. But how many of y'all have that one wall that's only like a quarter painted?
Yeah.
Welcome.
I think, it's such a good point. And the other part about build versus buy is, how are you handling data privacy and compliance requirements differently?
Ooh,
I mean, either one is
yeah.
quite difficult. So how would you navigate somebody through that?
So, oh God, I start going like, oh my God, I'm going to start to choke just because of that question. Oh, wow. Okay. Great question. So let's take from the build perspective first when we start, or, even the build and build on top. Like, let's look at that perspective. Data is going to be exceptionally hard no matter where you are and no matter where you are asking it to flow through. Data is a beast. It has a mind of its own. It goes where it wants to. It flows where it wants to. The funny thing is that it doesn't necessarily know where or when to stop or what you want it to do. It is just this like blob, and it goes, and you add more blob to it, and it keeps going. But you also have to have systems and solutions and a deep expertise that can let you know what is allowed. And it's not just governance, and it's not just security, and it's not just privacy, it's now identity. And those four things are discrete, different things. They're not one thing, and they're not going to be taken care of by one radio dial button or one toggle on an admin screen. It takes knowledge and it takes understanding of not just how to bring all of this data together. Where does it come from? How does it come together? How do you harmonize and unify data? If it was easy to do, we'd have been doing it all this time, and no one would have ever looked at me in the early 2000s and said, have you ever heard of dirty data? What? No. Like, what the hell is dirty data? Like, I can't tell you how many times I, as just even a CMO, had to say, like, what? No. What is that? Because there's always something new. There's always something changing, but there's always laws that are changing. There's regulatory environments that are changing. There is a difference in how you manage data from, take an organization that's massive, like an Aetna CVS, right? There is CVS portion of the data. There's front of house data. There's back of house data. Did you buy soda and candy? That's not going to mix with your diabetes drug. But guess what? You can't just randomly start throwing things out there like that, right? You can't use all the data just because you have it. You have to know that. In a build environment, you have to build all that. You have to build in that compliance. You have to build in those guardrails. So now, are you bringing in a security expert, a governance expert, an identity expert, a privacy expert? You're bringing in all of that. If you have that on your enterprise team, amazing. Build with courage, build with excitement, build with absolute certainty that that's how you're moving forward. If you're in an enterprise team that's bringing in strike teams and doing that by the hour, ooh, no matter what environment you're in, that's probably not the right way you're going to want to go with that. You need real firepower when it comes to data. You need to be able to know where to get it, how to use it, and then how to secure it. And those each have so many different nuanced points to all of it. And guess what? It also has a cost. So when we were talking about all that hidden cost and all the things you maybe didn't know about what you were going to have to pay for, that's in there as well. But data, I think, becomes really one of the biggest issues that we need to start really looking at, because we always kind of say, and like people have been saying for years, right? Like, oh, AI, data is the fuel for AI. Like, that kind of simplifies it, right? Because it makes you think that you can use the same fuel over and over and over again, but you can't, right? The data for AI, it's like see, here's where I could talk about chicken. I was getting really worried that I was going to have to use it and like go a whole session without using a chicken analogy, but here it comes. It's like you went and got a giant cauldron and you decided, I'm going to make the biggest cauldron of chicken soup ever made. And so I put all the chickens in, I put all the vegetables in, I put in all the spices, because I'm going to feed everyone. I'm going to feed this beast called AI, and it has an insatiable hunger. And so you make the soup and you feed it to this beast called AI, and it eats fast. So now you need to make more soup. And so you just go get the hose and you fill the cauldron back up with water. And every time the beast keeps eating the soup, you just keep filling up the water. Anyone who's ever cooked soup before knows that if you do that, your soup tastes like garbage after like a couple times of doing that, because all you're doing is putting in water. You're not putting in the vegetables. You're not putting in the chicken. You're just filling it with the same thing over and over and over again, and hoping that the flavor of the initial stuff you put in lasts no matter how many times you run it through the cycle, right? That is not going to do. That's not going to do if we're going to make true transformational change when it comes to AI. When it comes to AI, a single conversation isn't the point of AI.
Yeah.
An ongoing relationship built on conversation is the point of that application, right? But you have to have been able to have that vision, have that understanding of all the systems, the tools, the data, where that can come from, and not be limited to only be looking at the data that you could get to, because that's all we could build as far as the connectors went.
Yeah. Whew.
Chicken
Heavy
soup.
topic.
I did it.
Chicken soup.
Got
People are
all
gonna be
the
like,
references,
what
including the
is
chicken
happening?
soup.
I mean, look, this is not an easy topic, and it's a heavy topic. So I'm sure our audience is just feeling like, oh my gosh, such good nuggets, chicken nuggets, if you will, of
Chicken nuggets.
information.
Yes. I love it.
And good analogies, but let's lighten it and just figure out,
Yes.
like, look, at the end of the day, if you walk away with something, right, there is no single answer, right? There are so many factors, and you may just end up being a build environment, and that's okay. It's just put everything on the table and evaluate it, right? But Liz, if you were to kind of give them, this quick synopsis, if you will, like, how do leaders then take this knowledge back to their organization and decide what foundation to buy and what to build, or vice versa, foundation to build
Yeah.
and what to buy. Like, what are the, if we can generalize anything, what could it be?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, first of all, it's going to depend on who's driving the conversation. So let's use the example of, I am someone within a contact center, and I am going to be implementing conversational AI, and I'm going to completely be changing the AI footprint and how I, as a service delivery entity, delivers service. I'm going to go self-service first. I'm going to go AI heavy. I have a dream, and this is what it looks like. Don't have a dream by yourself. Like, this has to be, like, if anything is going to be a team sport, modernizing how customer experience is delivered and pulled together from technology, from that data, from all of these workflows, you've got to have those conversations with people that have likely told you no in the past, including the CIO and the COO and the CFO, right? But you have to have that conversation. That's where you start to document your DNA.
Mm.
It's also where you start to realize and discover pockets of exceptional talent across your enterprise. It's where you get to find out that you maybe have this little tiger team that loves to do hackathons, that they want to build, and they want to build these applications. And maybe there is someone who is in finance that has started vibe coding because they can.
Mm.
Have the conversation. Look for those resources. And if you end up in a scenario where you can build and you can buy, lean into the power of that and. It doesn't have to be a binary choice. If you are building your infrastructure and you can build your application and you can buy your applications that sit on top of that, ask how that is possible. Ask about the architecture, ask about the composability, ask about that native structure in which you are going to live, right? If you are only going to buy, ask about those questions about, well, can I modify? Can I low code? Can I no code on top of this? Can I have native built applications sit on top of this? Is this my foundation?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the number one thing I will say is ask questions, right? It's that Ted Lasso moment, right? Be curious, but gosh, lean into the and. Like, lean into the power of that and, because there are going to be so many amazing places that you're going to find people who want to be wildly creative about problem solving. And that is so great for any organization to be able to lean into. And when you have a culture of and, you're not just going to make decisions because something's cheaper than the other.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Liz. This was a
It's so much fun.
enlightening conversation,
Yeah,
and it's
this
so
was.
much fun. The audience is going to want to bring you back, right?
No, gosh,
Encore, Liz.
yeah. I'll have to think of what food, because we talked about cake and we talked about chicken.
We talked about a bunch of.
What am I bringing back? You know,
That's for you to decide, or
I
maybe
know.
for them
But
to
if they
decide.
have any questions that we weren't able to get to because I just decided to host my own like one woman talk show over here, send them on through. You know, happy to try to charge into those later.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the very, very detailed conversation and a really tough combo. We hope everybody today enjoyed it as well. And it really is a journey, and the journey is yours to decide. We hope that today you got some good nuggets on how to navigate that journey as you see fit. Keep an eye out for our next Impact series. As I mentioned, this is monthly, so you can hang out with Sneha and I every month. I unfortunately can't promise that Liz will be with us, but Sneha and I will be here.
I don't know. You guys are pretty darn fun. Like, it's a pretty good hangout, so I'd recommend it.
You're too kind.
Our next one is October 30th. We will be joined with Michael Pace, and he is the president of the Northeast Contact Center Forum and the 2022 CCW Contact Center Leader of the Year.
Nice.
He will be, great accolades. He'll be coming to
Good. Yeah.
how he has navigated replacing IVRs, and building AI agents as nodes on top of it. Another very heavy conversation with not a linear answer.
It's appropriate for Halloween, though. I'm just going to say it feels right.
It's the spooky season.
It's spooky. It's scary. Don't touch that. Don't unplug it. Yeah, it feels right.
Well, thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Liz, and
Thank
we
you.
will see you next month.
Bye.